Hi everyone, so next up we have another one of these hypothetical support new context questions. So we're essentially looking at, which of these findings, if true, would support the researcher's claim, something like that. So we're thinking about bringing in some new context in order to hypothetically support what's already being stated in the passage. So we need to make sure it is supported by the passage, even though it is slightly new, it still needs to be supported and at least not contradicted by the passage. So let's take a look. So exactly like I said, we have our question here of which finding, if true, would most directly support the researcher's hypothesis. Okay, so we need to look at our context and we need to figure out what the researcher's hypothesis is. So it looks like these researchers are studying two plants and whether or not they have fine hairs near the root tip. And it looks like these hairs secrete both malic and citric acids. And then, we have the researchers hypothesized that the plants depend on dissolving underlying rock with these acids, as the process not only creates channels for continued growth, but also releases phosphates that provide the vital nutrient phosphorus. Okay, so talking about these little hairs, and they depend on the dissolving underlying rock with these acids, as this creates channels for continued growth, but also releases phosphates that provide vital nutrient phosphorus. Okay, so let's see which of these choices would support that hypothesis. So we have A, other species in the, so hard to say, Velosoziaceae family are found in terrains with more soil, but have root structures similar to those two plants. Okay, so maybe this could be helpful. It is talking about this plant family that we're discussing and the root structures. So maybe if we can compare to these other ones, it could support that hypothesis. It doesn't seem super specific though, but let's see what our other choices look like. So though these two plants both secrete citric and malic acids, each species produces the acids in different proportions. Okay. What do we think about this one? So based on what we read in the passage, maybe this could be relevant again, but in terms of producing acid in different proportions, that doesn't really seem relevant to this hypothesis specifically, that we're talking about these channels for continued growth and being provided with nutrients. So we can get rid of B. Then we have C. The roots of these two plants carve new entry points into rocks even when cracks in the surface are readily available. All right, so what do we think about this one? So this one definitely seems to be closely related to this idea of creating channels through these hairs, and that they are able to kind of grow through these channels. So seems like a great option. Let's double check with D. These two plants thrive even when transferred to the surfaces of rocks that do not contain phosphates. Okay, so we are specifically looking at this idea of growth here. So again, D doesn't really seem to apply to that all that much. So then we're just left with A and C. And looking between these two, which one seems more closely related? So C is definitely going to be our right choice here as compared to A. Again, maybe A could be relevant, but in terms of which one seems most specific to this hypothesis that we're discussing, we are talking about the roots and how those roots are kind of expanding. So C is going to be the right choice.